What up YouTube, this is Invincible13 Matt, and welcome to my first ever deck profile. Today's deck will be based around Divine Grace North Wemko. She is a 7-star ritual monster with 2700 attack points. When you ritual summon her, you select a number of cards face up on the field equal to the number of monsters used to ritual summon her, and she becomes indestructible as long as those cards remain face up on the field, and as long as she remains face up on the field. So she's the main focus of the deck, so we run 3 of her, right here. Manju, basic ritual support, I suppose you can say. Very good, very strong floater, very versatile in this deck. Can search out any of my 2 copies of Ritual of Grace, or the 3 copies of North Wemko, usually the copies of Ritual, because as you can see I'm also running 2 copies of Preparation of Rites. Preparation of Rites is a great card for any ritual deck that uses a 7-star or lower ritual monster, especially if you already have them in your hand, and especially if you're using Dijins. As you can basically ritual summon one of them and play Preparation of Rites and basically get another 1-card ritual monster, which is really hard to do otherwise. As I mentioned before, Dijins, the 2 initial ones, Presider lets you draw extra cards as well as providing some decent attack bulk, I suppose you could call it. 1800 is still pretty good in this form, still pretty good all the time. And Releaser Rituals, though, is strictly better. She prevents your opponent from special summoning, which has been basically the win condition since a long time ago. At least Phantom Darkness, much sooner than that though. Usually if you can use Dijin on North Wemko and maintain at least one of those cards, your opponent will basically just scoop because there's nothing they can do to get rid of her. Unless they have to draw into like Book of Moon or something like that. Torrential Tribute won't get rid of her. Mirror Force won't get rid of her. She'll just basically sit there until your opponent can find a way to get around her effect or get rid of all your other cards, basically. Armageddon Knights, speed up the deck, get those Dijins in the graveyard so you can use them. Pretty self-explanatory. Also, kind of strange probably to most people is the fact that I am running 6 different Lightsworn in this deck. They help with milling. They can send either of these 4 to the graveyard, as well as the rituals for recycling with Preparation of Rites, as well as providing some decent utility. Jane can basically trade with Cyber Dragon and get over pretty much every other level 4 in the game. Lila is basically the vanguard for North Wemko, because she can come down before her, turn sideways, break a spell card, so you don't get solemned or bottomless, because that's one of North Wemko's least favorite things. Gardna's self-explanatory. Gardna's good. Back at 2, he goes in. Sangan, pretty much, again, self-explanatory. Searches out your Manju, searches out Dijin if you really need the defensive monster or haven't drawn Armageddon Knight. Searches Armageddon Knight, who then sends Dijin, accelerates the deck. So that basically covers the monster lineup. There's 2 Chaos monsters. Blackluster Soldier, ridiculously powerful still. He basically just sits there and remove your opponent's monsters from the game. Basically kicks out your opponent's monster's legs and then offers them as a bridge to North Wemko towards your opponent's life points. Burden of the Mighty is actually quite good. It's not so good with Heavy Storm lurking around, but it's still a card that basically just sits there and tells your opponent's monsters, yeah, you're not very good anymore. It's useless against Xyz monsters, which weakens it a lot more. It's a lot weaker now because of the Xyz monsters, and there's like, oh, we don't have levels. We're just going to sit here and be 2500 because we want to be. But otherwise, it can basically interfere with your opponent's plans. All of a sudden, their level 4 monsters aren't as powerful as they used to be. Tengu goes down to 1300. Not like it matters because it's Tengu. He's just going to come back again. Basically, everything else gets weaker. Everything gets weaker. Your monsters are already on the high end with Lila, Jane, and Dijin. And it even provides enough, usually, to get Manju to tiebreak at least with some of them. Charge with Light Brigade, pretty much self-explanatory. Search out the Lightsworn monsters. Dark Hole, self-explanatory. Also hilarious to go Dark Hole with North Wemco, so you can just basically smash them in the face, because North Wemco just says, Dark Hole. That's worthless against me. Heavy Storm, self-explanatory. Monster Reborn, self-explanatory. 3 copies of Space Typhoon and a copy of Dust Tornado. Like I said, basically preemptive removal is North Wemco's worst nightmare because her effect has to activate and resolve before she becomes immune to the actual destruction. So you're basically just going to want to you're going to have to be patient with playing your North Wemco. Unlike most decks, you have to kind of wait it out, I suppose you could say. Make sure you can make your opponent waste removal on your other monsters before summoning North Wemco to basically shut down the game and clean off your opponent's face. Pot of Avarice because of the milling. The deck used to run 2 before it got limited. The deck was somewhat different then. It used to run less Gardenas, no Sorks or BLS because they were banned, and basically so I could recycle my monsters. That can't happen anymore because Pot got knocked down to 1 for good reason. And yeah, so it's at 1. It can still be useful if you don't remove all your monsters from the graveyard for these 2, basically. Affirmation of Rights, go on with that. Reinforcement of the Army, looks for Armageddon Knights or Jane, or in really bad cases, Gardna. Bottomless, still good. Solemn Judgment is Solemn Judgment. Helps you keep your North Wemco out there, especially against cards that like that Book of Moon or something that would want to remove her, or just remove her, or flip her face down, or do something that her effect can't stop. Warnings, they're Solemn Warning. There's not really much else I can say about that. It's like, yeah, your monsters don't come out. Torrential Tribute, of course. Again, fun with North Wemco. Just sit there. Oh, you're summoning a monster? I'm going to Torrential and keep my monster on the field. So yeah, that's basically how this deck functions. Of course, there's Honest over here, who basically also serves the function of protecting all your monsters, as well as being basically 1-for-1 removal that very few things can actually deal with, as well as just an extra damage tool if you need to get over something. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Kind of set up Manju in the first turn, or Raikou set. The main thing you want to be careful of this deck is that unlike standard Lightsworn, where you can basically just mill, oh, Judgment Dragon, win game, you have to control your milling very tight, because if you mill too much, you will mill cards that you need, and you can't afford to lose like 2 of your North Wemcos, or like too many rituals or the preparations. It's nice that some of the cards are out of the deck, but otherwise you're going to end up with like incompatible sets of cards, and you're just going to be staring at your hand like, the cards I need are in my graveyard and I have no way to get them back. Because there is no good way to retrieve a spell card from the graveyard, other than preparation in this case. Because there's like spell reproduction or whatever, which is expensive, and Hidden Book of Spell, which is slow and unreliable. So yeah, that's this deck. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you got any ideas of how to improve it. I've been trying to work on this for 3 years. One of the main flaws of it is that it is kind of slow. Like I said, you have to prepare for your North Wemco, playing Typhoons and Lilas, and you get the Dijins out. But it takes time, and by that time your opponent has probably dropped 4 Ixies on you and just completely rained on your parade. So yeah, see you guys later.